Nations Cup Grand Final is on the way, and here is how the grid lines up for one last time in 2024. Red Bull X 2019 is the car, and on pole position the winner from race 2 and the championship leader Jose Serrano. Kylian Drumont joins him on the front row of the grid. Row 2 headed by 2020 champion Takuma Miyazono. Next up is Kai de Bruyne, the Dutchman, to a roar from the Dutch crowd. Angel Nestroza P5, he loves these cars, we know he can be quick. Valerio Gallo down in 6th place, he's got a bit of work to do, and he's got Guy Barbara in 7th position right behind him as well. Next up, Adriano Carazza P8 on the grid. And just inside the top 10, Takuma Sasaki, who's had a bit of a difficult second race. Completing the top 10, it is Robbie Heck, the American driver. Next up, his compatriot Callum Roach in P11. 12th and last on the grid, Coque Lopez. He has also got a lot of work to do from that far back. Now, let's look at the tyres for the final time this season at the start of the race. Serrano, he's got clear track in front of him here, Jimmy. He wants to make hay while the sun shines and get off into the distance.
Yeah, that is the right choice, I think, from Jose Serrano. He needs just to make himself a big gap as quick as possible, use that clean air, use that soft tyre, and just be efficient with his time. Interestingly, we mentioned Valerio Gallo before we started. He's gone for that hard compounder tyre, so he's opting to try and basically be the cork in the bottle for the rest of the drivers and opting to go fast a bit later on.
So then coming through to the start-finish line we are. Here are the live points rankings. You can see Jose Serrano it is that leads it then. 5 points over Kylian Drumont. Double points on offer for this grand final. And only one driver that can be crowned as the 2024 Nations Cup World Champion. Jose Serrano will lead the field across the line. Drumont in second, Miyazono in third. For one final time in 2024, we are about to go racing. It's lights out and we are underway for the grand final of the Nations Cup in 2024 here at the Nürburgring. Serrano leads them down towards the first corner, followed by Drumont, Miyazono, de Bruyne and Nestroza. A rolling start for the drivers. I don't expect any heroics down into that first corner, but you should expect Serrano to try and clear off into the distance with the soft tyres and the clear air in front of him.
You look at the gap already, 7 tenths of a second in the background there as Roach gets by Sasaki. Gallo also moving behind Carazza, but Serrano, the right choice for him for his race, is just going to get away early and try and avoid squabbling with his guys behind him. Drumont ahead of Miyazono, and Kai de Bruyne looking already for a move on Takuma Miyazono. Maybe a bit of contact on the way there through there, but de Bruyne up into 3rd place and showing his intention early.
Yeah, didn't take that one lying down, did he, Kai de Bruyne? He wants to make hay whilst the sun shines. He knows how tricky this Nordschleife circuit is. We're on the Grand Prix layout at the moment, but as we head on to the proper Nordschleife, it really does begin to narrow up. Look at that, 1.5 seconds for Jose Serrano in the opening stages of this race. Keen to see also what Robbie Heck is going to be able to do from 7th position. He's on the soft tyre, and he is going to be a lot quicker than those in front of him on the medium compound tyre. But will he be able, of course, to use that speed? That's the question that we were asking at the start of this race. And as we head on to the green hell, we're about to find out what will happen. Bit of a wiggle on the exit of the corner there for Kai de Bruyne. And down in towards the elevation and the fast part of this circuit we go. Just beautiful to watch us on board here with Takuma Miyazono. And you can see how close he is to Kai de Bruyne, but he's not going to be able to use any of that momentum at the moment. So de Bruyne's hoping to hold it into 3rd place and then try and use some of the strategy a little bit later on to try and play things out.
It's mad seeing the speed of these things through the first part of the Nordschleife here, the Nürburgring proper, and you have no time to think. You get through one corner and another one is upon you, completely flat there after Flugplatz. Now we take the long run down towards Schwedenkreuz, a corner that in real life in most cars is a bit of a lift and a bit of a panic, and this car, watch Takuma Miyazono's throttle input there through his left-hander. Of course, completely flat at 200 miles an hour before braking hard down to just touch the grass there on the left. Very lucky to get away with that, and now we plummet down towards the forest, between the trees, down towards the compression and the foxhole. Again, completely flat down here for these drivers, keeping that foot pinned even for the left-hander here before we slow right down for Adenauer Force, the very tricky section through here. And Takuma Miyazono showing that he can follow close to Kai de Bruyne, who's touched a couple of curves through there, unsettling the car. You don't want to do that. The curves here on the Nordschleife are very tall, You hit them in the wrong way, they're going to send you into the barrier.
Robbie Heck making good progress. He's got himself ahead of Angel Enestrosa, up 5 places from where he started. So he really managed to take advantage of that soft tyre when they were on the Grand Prix layout of the track, and now he's up inside the top 5. I wonder if his progress is going to stall somewhat as we come through this section of the circuit. You can see Miyazono and De Bruyne very close to one another, and then a fairly pronounced gap, about 1.5 seconds or so, back to Robbie Heck in P5 at the moment. Enestrosa in 6th position, Carazza inside P7, Gallo on the hard tyre. I suppose the converse as well, Jimmy. We're talking about the soft tyre and not being able to use it necessarily to your advantage on this tricky section of the track. If you're on the hard tyre, it might be a benefit because you might not be able to let anybody pass at this point in the track.
Yeah, sort of the idea really. You use the hard tyre to really hinder other people. But here's a replay. We're on board with Carazza going down a T1. We have a lunge on Guy Barbara. We don't look at it. Barbara and Gallo are side by side. Oh, just gets a little bit sideways there. There's contact there. Barbara hits the wall, then hits Gallo. Carazza just about manages to get by all of them up into, I think it's going to be a net 6th place once he gets by Valerio. There it is. So a nice start from Carazza there, if not a little bit tick.
Yeah, it was all hectic in front of him really, wasn't it, with Barbara and Gallo coming together in that second corner, and that sort of started off that chain of events. Either way, it's worked out quite nicely for the Brazilian, as Guy De Bruyne has still got Takuma Miyazono all over his rear wing at the moment. Drumont's doing enough, 3.6 seconds though behind Jose Serrano, but the race will come to him a little bit later on, so there's no point worrying about the gap in front. All he can do at this point is control what is in his hands, just worry about his own race and get on with the job. In towards the carousel, probably the most famous section on this Nordschleife circuit.
I watched this and how? That's absolutely frozen through there. And now we get to the highest point of the circuit, Hoa Axe, this corner, and it's all downhill from here, although literally, not figuratively, as we now just try and make our way through what I think is the most challenging part of the circuit. So much camber, so much elevation here from Rupperman, like it's nothing. Completely flat through there, on the brakes, use the camber on the inside of this right hand, and again, dive to the left, hug that curve before you come up to Bridgestone 1 and Bridgestone 2, otherwise known as YouTube corner. In this right-hander, again, just throwing the car. It looks effortless in this Red Bull X 2019. It's just ridiculous to watch this, isn't it?
So blind they are, those corners as well. They come up you so quickly, don't they, through there. Just a little bit wide through on the left-handers. A few moments to go. Down through the compression we go into there.
Just a lift of the floor there. Onto Franska. What's going on? I could not keep up with this. This is too much. I mean, like, this is why these drivers are the best in the world. And it might look easy watching it, but you think how quickly these corners are coming up on you. You have to be precise every corner, otherwise you end up just spearing off into the barrier. Climbing the carousel now. See, De Bruyne not quite. See, this is what I mean. A little bit eager on the throttle there, and then slow on exit. And that means he's going to be under attack from Takuma Miyazono going on to this long back straight Le Dottinger-Hura.
Yeah, lovely to see the Dottinger-Hura again. Great chance for some slipstreams as well. De Bruyne is being pulled along somewhat by Kylian Drumont. Miyazono, did he lift off the throttle there coming down that back straight? Just wonder, because he was quite close to Guy De Bruyne and he's not quite able to find his way past. Maybe saving a bit of fuel in the early stages of this race, something to consider as well, because they are pretty thirsty machines, this one. He is now side by side at the end of the Dottinger-Hura, then through the left-hander we go, and still he is on the outside here, but you've got to be careful because it's a bit sketchy going through there as it's so close to the grass, into the braking zone. We've seen a few incidents there in the Gran Turismo World Series over the last 6 years or so. Thankfully, not this time.
Yeah, to give you an idea of the pace advantage, it's a 6.24 from Serrano from a standing start, for a rolling start, and a 6.30 from Kylian Drumont. That's a 5-second difference there between the two drivers, and Drumont now doing a good job in second place, the faster of the medium runners, but not able to keep the pace of Serrano on that soft. Lopez opting to come in early from that hard compound tyre, as we thought he would, but Gallo, from what I can see, has opted to stay out another lap.
I was just about to say, interestingly, Gallo and Barbara have not decided to pit then, so they're going as long as they can on the hard tyre. I mean, we generally say that the hard tyre is lava. You want to stay off for it for as long as possible, for as short time as possible, but there's obviously some method in the madness here for Coco Lopez. He thinks he can either eke out either the soft or the medium tyre an extra lap. Again, it doesn't sound like a particularly long amount of time, but when you consider the amount of tyres, the amount of force and energy going through them, a lap around here, it's an awfully long time, and you've got to make that gamble and be confident in it before you come into the pit lane, because if you've made a mistake, well, you're going to pay for it for the next 6 minutes.
I mean, I did watch some practice earlier on, and the soft tyres are pretty cooked after 2 laps, with Serrano's just gone on to lap 2 of that soft tyre. So I think it stands to reason the medium might struggle to do 4 as well. But we settle on the watching Kaiser Bruin making his way through the chicane very, very quick through there, and now back on to the Nordschleife, the northern loop. Really awesome to see these cars make their way around this legendary circuit. I mean, we'd race it every time we come here if it was up to me, of course, but that's why it's not up to me.
Look at the fuel, though, there for Serrano versus Dumont, etc. You know, he's done about 6 or 7 litres more fuel, Jose Serrano. Doesn't sound like a particularly great deal, but that's, you know, another couple of seconds in the pit lane that he's going to spend putting fuel into his car relative to those around him if he's not able to save it. The crucial thing is, of course, that Serrano doesn't have the advantage of the slipstream. He's punching the hole in the air. Those behind the likes of Dumont, they of course can afford to save a little bit of fuel. We saw that with Miyazono on the first part of the Dottingham Hill, just lifting off of the throttle, coasting as it were, and just trying to save those crucial sort of millilitres, litres as it were, to try and give him an advantage when it comes down to the pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, there is going to have to be fuel that goes in the car. We calculated around 96 litres for the entire race, give or take, and these guys are burning through their fuel quickly. The best on fuel so far actually is this man, Takuma Miyazono. He was doing what you said he was doing earlier on, just sort of hanging behind Kaiser Bruin, being pulled along by this train in front of him, but also saving that time in the pit stop. There's so much that goes into these races. It's not just good enough to be fast, you've got to be smart as well. And Miyazono has always been that sort of person that has that running in the back of it, has had that capacity to think about things, and that's super important to be successful here in the GT World Series.
The good thing is for Coco Lopez, though he pits at the end of lap 1, it's a bit of an outlier compared to the rest of the field. He has got, obviously now, a lovely bit of clear track in front of him, 21 seconds to not worry about closing up into the back of many cars. The risk is, of course, if you go for the soft tyres in the middle stint and you end up stuck behind someone who's on a medium or a hard competitive tyre and you can't find your way through, well, it's all in vain, isn't it, really? Because you've got that extra pace and no opportunity to be able to use it through these sweeping corners that, again, so blind that you've got to be so precise and lightning on the reactions that this is where the dirty air will really be beginning to kick in. That's the converse, of course, because it will cause you more tyre wear, despite the fact that you can save fuel in a straight line.
Yeah, through Adenau here, there's medium speed corners, so if you lose the grip, you really feel it as we go back up the hill once more. Interestingly, we'll keep one eye on Coque Lopez, because he's gone a completely different direction from everyone else. He's pitted super early, got that hard tyre off, and now he's on a soft tyre with no one in front of him, so he can just push into that gap as hard as possible. This is what Lopez tends to do. He never ever seems to be in a good position going into these final races, but always finds a way to make the strategy work. If you go back on board with Kaiser Bruin, there is the trophy these guys are all fighting for. They're the Nations Cup trophy. Which man will have his hands in that when the race checker flag falls on lap 7 in a few moments' time? Kaiser Bruin still there, still on board, getting a thumbnail from Kylian Dumont. Fuel-wise, Kaiser Bruin and Miyazono have used about 3 litres less fuel than Dumont in front. So staying where they are now actually might be, I mean, that's worth a second. It's 3 litres per second.
That's it, yeah. So they're just playing the smart game at the moment, biding their time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You've got to be careful. You've got to use your head in these races. Unlike what we saw in the first one, where you can sort of afford to lunge your way through on the inside or send it around the outside and, you know, throw caution to the wind, so to speak. You can't do that here in these longer form races. You've really got to be sensible, figure out your strategy and find something that works for you. And also, crucially, not make too many mistakes, because a second here, a second there, half a second even, can be absolutely critical.
Really interesting to see what the lap time is going to be for these guys on that medium tyre. 6:24 for this is ridiculous for the full layout. To give you some context, of course, I'm lucky enough to race the equivalent of a Group 4 car in real life, and our best lap time was like an 8:38. That's 2 minutes, 2 and a bit minutes faster. That's just ridiculous around here.
I'll give it a amount of time, Jimmy. It's probably a matter of time before you end up in some kind of fast prototype, isn't it?
Oh, please, not here, please. I don't want to.
Shut your eyes, turn the wheel, hope for the best.
I just don't want to do it.
Through the long right hander we go, then the fast left hander as they make their way through, and Kaiser Bruin, as we say, just biding his time, keeping it patient. Rota's got a penalty as well down there in a position. Didn't quite see exactly what that was all about. He's made up 3 places though from where he started, but he's got Sasaki not too far adrift down there in 9th position. Gallo also, as we know, on the hard tyre as it stands for now. We should see a flurry of activity in the pit lane at the end of lap 2. For my money, you're going to see at least the hard shop runners coming in. I reckon we're probably going to see the soft shop runners of Serrano and Heck probably pitting, because I don't think they'll have much life left in them.
Interestingly, the gap to the front hasn't extended in the same way, so I think we're seeing that second lap on that soft tyre is nowhere near as strong as the first. I mean, to be expected. Serrano's tyres now are starting, you can see that the rear tyres are starting to get to the point where they're really struggling. That'd be bad traction, bad braking, the bad tyre wear affects everything about a car. As we come down again, watching Kai de Bruin again, Mirzona, I've got the impression, just lifting that throttle, just letting himself coast up to the back of the cars in front, giving himself a maximum possible pit advantage. Now, will these guys come into the pit in this lap? Let's see, Kai de Bruin, Drummond, they all stay out on that medium compound tyre, but our leader, Jose Serrano, is into the pit lane, as is Robbie Heck behind on the soft tyres.
So medium trim runners again, trying to go as long as possible, trying to do, what, 4 laps on those medium tyres, quite possibly. We're on lap 3 now, so Serrano comes into the box. He, of course, has used more fuel because he's been punching the air in front of him, and that is the difficult thing about leading the race in circumstances such as this. Though, of course, you can get clear air and run your own time, you are going to be expending a bit more fuel, and it's a lot easier to gain time on track than it is to lose time in the pit lane. You know, a second here, a second there doesn't sound like a lot, but in the pit lane it takes you ages to get that back on track, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, like, as you say, a second in the pit lane is much easier to lose than a second on circuit, or to gain even. So Serrano, so he's back now in P10. Lopez, interestingly, ahead of him now on that soft compounder tyre, so it goes to show that Lopez's first stint was actually pretty good.
Yeah, really good from Coque Lopez, former Nations Cup champion, of course, won it back in 2022, part of the winning lineup as well as Team Spain when it was a team competition in 23.
I'm trying to understand, Lopez must have been a blinder to do that, surely. Well, am I being silly here, Tom?
No, he's waited it quite nicely here so far. You know, he's still 17 seconds off the back relative because, of course, he's got Robbie Heck behind. He's closed up the gap quite nicely, about 5 seconds or so, compared to where he was when he came out in that pit stop. So it's working out quite nicely for Coque Lopez, but, again, those around him have still got to make their pit stop. You know, there's, another 10 seconds roughly there and thereabouts in Astroza, Sasaki to make up the road. So we'll see how it works out. And of course the converse for Lopez, though he's got that nice bit of clear air, he doesn't have the slipstream. He can't save fuel like those others who are in close competition around him. So that could come to hinder him when he gets to the pit time again.
Yes, definitely. And from there, right now, the men in the best possible position for that are De Bruin and Mirzona. Now, Kylian Drummond is now leading this race. From the front back, the Frenchman always been very fast in these competitions, and we know he has the ability to win here in the Gran Turismo World Series. Fast as that, though, so far belongs to Takuma Mirzona, the man in 3rd place, a 6:25.7, only marginally faster than the cars around him, but enough to have the fastest lap for now. But I guarantee you, as the race goes on, that is going to fall dramatically.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Kai de Bruin just keeping watching brief on proceedings. There is Kylian Drummond. In terms of the fuel, he's exuded another 4 litres compared to the Dutchman at the moment. So just see how tight those margins are there as well as they make their way through these corners. It almost looks like they're flirting with the grass, the curb, every single opportunity going through those fast corners.
What's the magic of the Nordschleife is it isn't as a traditional racetrack. It's a relic from a time that's gone, but still somehow used and raced on today. Where look how close these barriers are. You make a mistake, you're on the grass. When you're in the grass, no grip, you're in that barrier almost straight away. And it really is a track that demands your attention. It demands skill and precision. And then on top of that, we launch these guys into the fastest cars in the game. We go, yeah, off you go. Enjoy that, have fun. I say that outside of the Tomahawk. I would love to see a race in those.
That would be class.
Yeah.
One day. That's the thing I love about the Nations Cup as well as the variety. You know, we started off in 1,000 horsepower road cars, no downforce. You know, not particularly brilliant when it comes to braking power compared to a racing car. And then speaking of that, we end up in a racing car for the second one, where we're in, you know, a 90s Formula car, and then for the last one, we're in a modern day hyper-powered Red Bull X 2019, which has got more downforce than you can shake a stick at.
This is Lopez.
Yeah, making his way past Robbie Heck. Heck on the hard compounder tyre here, coming through, and that was nicely done. Heck not holding him up too much, but again, nice bit of clear air there. Coque Lopez to just try and take profit of it. Where's his next gap up the road? 18 seconds. He's again in a nice, comfortable position at the moment, but again, I just wonder what it's going to look like for him in terms of fuel relative to those up the front. I'm just looking at the the fuel savings for some of them, 32, 33 litres for De Bruyne and Mierzono. Lopez, about the same, 33. He's just ticked over to as well. So it's working out okay there for Coque Lopez. He's on the soft tyre, but let's not forget, he is going to have to owe the medium tyre at the end of this one, whereas others around him may owe the soft. So it might put him out of sequence.
Yeah, it does get a bit complicated now. We've got a lot of different strategies going, lots of numbers being thrown at us and at you guys at home. But what we do know is once all the pit stops are said and done, we'll know exactly who's where and what fights are going to be on for the end of the race. Dumont has fallen back a little bit to De Bruyne. He did try to, I think, make a little bit of a gap to these guys, but he pushed hard and ended up using a little bit of fuel. And now he's realising that, oh no, maybe actually I just went gone a bit hard at this point. But De Bruyne and Mierzono are doing everything they can do right now, just staying in touch, just staying within slipstream range, just outside of that massive dirty air area, which is really going to push the tyres and make things a bit more difficult for them. And Mierzono, if anything, is looking like he wants to maybe get by De Bruyne.
Worst case scenario here for Dumont is if he comes into the pit lane the same time as De Bruyne and Mierzono do, he'll be relinquishing that race lead away, won't they? Because they'll be able to get ahead if they're taking on less fuel, or indeed if they don't take any fuel on board and they decide to do it later on. What are we down to? 24 litres? I'm sure they're going to have to, really. It depends on which way they go in terms of the tyres for their middle stint in this race. Speaking of the tyres, the rear's not looking too bad. They're certainly a bit more second-hand. Lopez and his rear tyres are in far worse condition comparatively. Are they going to last another lap though, or are we going to see the medium runners coming into the box at the end of this one? We'll find out in a couple of minutes or so's time once we've made our way down through the Dottinger Hurt. Lots of battles and strategies to play out. Either way, the top three at the moment, Dumont, De Bruyne and Mierzono, bit of an exhibition at the sharp end of this race. They have controlled this one very comfortably indeed so far.
Will Mierzono save more fuel, or will he just get the slingshot, try and get onto the back of Dumont, and then take the race lead from there? Who knows? I mean, here we go. Looking back from Kylian Dumont, he's pulled a bit of a gap there. Mierzono, watch that little bar, the indicator on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. Will we see any lifting from Kylian Mierzono? Maybe he's just turned the fuel down. You can do that in these cars. You can turn the fuel mix down a little bit. It slows down the car, but saves a little bit of fuel on the straight when you've got the slipstream anyway. The car has to do that work. It's the right time to do it as they all break hard down into the end of the lap. Off the Nordschleife, we go back on to the GP circuit, and as predicted, all three cars come into the pit lane, but that will mean that De Bruyne or Mierzono will likely go up into the lead now. Look at the fuel difference. Mierzono has saved 7 litres of fuel over Dumont. That's massive. That's over 2 seconds.
It's huge, absolutely huge. As we say, very, very difficult to gain that back when you get onto the circuit, unless, of course, you're following a car quickly on the Dottinger Hurt. So De Bruyne, Dumont, Mierzono, Inestrosa and Roach all in the box off of the medium compound of tyres. Sasaki and Karatza have decided to carry on, presumably in their middle stint, unless they've just not come around to the pit lane yet, because of course they were a fair old way back. So fuel going on board, soft tyres for Dumont and De Bruyne. Mierzono, the outlier there, he's going onto the hard compound of tyre for this middle stint. So he's going to try and hopefully gain track position and then keep the rest of the drivers behind him on the Nordschleife circuit, and it's worked out quite nicely for Mierzono because he has now got track position, but of course he's got a slower compound of tyre.
I have to apologise for missing something a little bit earlier on. I wondered why Serrano had dropped behind Coque Lopez. It's because the opposite take is still there. He's done his dual stop, Serrano, now. He's got all the fuel he needs to get to the end of the race, and now has track position over Mierzono, Dumont and De Bruyne, but he does have to go onto that hard tyre at the end of the race. Mierzono opting to do that now, so really there's a bit of a gap again for Serrano to drive into, so that might have been an amazing strategic call from Jose Serrano.
Well, it could be. We'll wait and see what happens though with Mierzono, because he's got a fast charging De Bruyne and Dumont behind. They're both on the soft compound of tyres, so what Mierzono's got to really hope for here is that he can keep those two behind on this GP circuit. Then when we get back onto the Nordschleife of the Green Hell, then he can hopefully keep them at bay for at least the rest of this lap, because presumably if he's on the hard tyre now, he's going to try and run it for one lap, then go on to the soft tyre for the very end of this race. But 3 laps on the softs, that's a tall order though, isn't it, for Takuma Mierzono. He's run the mediums, he's now on the hards. Let's see how this is going to play out. Either way, he's going to have a fast-charging Frenchman behind him here, because we're on board with Kylian Dumont. Down through in towards Hatzenbach we go. And again, you can just see how narrow and tight it is. You've got to thread the eye of a needle through these corners. But look how early Drumont can get on the power and how late he can get on the brakes. The Achilles heel for Miyazono here is going to when we come up towards the flag puts, because look at that, around the outside to Kylian Drumont, and I don't think Miyazono's going to have anything left in his locker. Indeed, he doesn't, and Drumont accelerates his way through, effectively, into a net race lead.
Kai de Bruin follows him through as well, follows Drumont through. They do not want to lose time behind Miyazono, so now Drumont and de Bruin need to really push and get away from Miyazono, because he isn't that hard compounded tyre, but while using the draft, he can sort of stay with them, but that will, of course, fall away as they go through the corners. Through straight point, it's now breaking hard down to Arenberg, get the car into the camber on the inside, hook it in, and then back full gas as we go down the hill back towards the compression and the Foxhorn. You can see the difference just there already, one corner, and the gap's up to 5/10 of a second.
Look at Serrano though, he's only, what, 5 seconds up the road compared to Drumont, and Drumont on a quicker compounded tyre, taking fuel on board as well. So Serrano here on this middle stint, he's going to be struggling. He's going to be a bit of damage limitation, and of course he owes that hard tyre at the end of this race. So again, it could be a smart strategy, but it might not work out for the Spaniard. Let's have a look and see what happened then here. So Miyazono just ran it a bit deep, couldn't get the car rotated. Drumont said thanks very much, went straight through, and then de Bruin said thanks very much as the slipstream came into effect with Kylian Drumont and managed to sweep on.
I've never seen a move like that before at that corner, but I've also never seen
Serrano penalty.
That's huge. Colliding with another car. When was that? Was that Carrazza?
We'll have to wait and see. I did wonder if the gap had shrunk down. It looks like it clearly has, hasn't it? So Serrano now with Drumont. Let's have a look at what happened then here. So Serrano, it's with Robbie Heck, isn't it? It's further back and up the inside. It was the merest of touches going through there, wasn't it?
It was very tight. I mean, our stewards do have access to different angles than we do. They will have looked at that a few times before handing out that penalty. But that's going to be huge for Yassetto there. He's really going to have to push to make that time back. The second might not seem like much on a circuit this big, but these guys, that's how tight the competition is. 1 second can make all the difference. Now, interestingly, do you know who the fastest man on track right now is? Well, not this guy.
Yeah,
but it's Valerio Gallo on that medium compounded tyre, currently in P7, and he is someone who still has the soft tyre yet to run, and he is gaining on Miyazono in front.
Well, you've got Italy's fastest man out on track, and you've got Spain's maddest man, I'm sure, in third place following that penalty as well. So, a difficult middle stint then here for Jose Serrano. As I say, it was just the lightest of grazes. Meanwhile, Adriano Carrazza up into second. He's all over the back of Takuma Sasaki. Is he going to be able to find his way through on the Japanese driver as we come through this series of corners? As well, if you give Carrazza an inch, he'll take a mile, and I wonder whether he's going to think about it before too long. He's not close enough to mount a challenge at the moment. Both of these drivers on the medium compound of tyre, both will be pitting at the end of this lap because they're going to be critical on fuel. 8 litres left for Sasaki, 8 litres left for Adriano Carrazza, and they'll be coming out of this one on to their next compound of tyre, because they've done a first stint rather, on the medium compound of tyre. So presumably they're going to go to the hard tyre for 1 lap only, and then try and run the softs to the end of the race. So what they've tried to do is get the overcut effectively on them. But what's the gap now down to? 15.8 seconds to Jose Serrano. That's a bit of a bold strategy, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I was just chuckling to myself watching the gyro cam from it. It looks so fast through there, man. I mean, I've done a few silly laps around the Nürburgring, silly cars, and I just think to myself that, like, I cannot do that. Oh, Sasaki there running it very wide on the exit of onto the straight, onto the dot under her there, and now Carrazza will have that draft down the straight. Usually it's easy to pass it, but these guys are both on very little fuel indeed, so they're going to have to take fuel here. How much they take, of course, might not agree with each other. We might see Sasaki take a lot, we might see Carrazza take a lot, but we'll see as they come into pit lane underneath the Bilstein Bridge as we go now down towards the heavy braking zone. Sasaki looking up at the screen there, because they can get a bit of info from the screen. They can see the same big screen you guys can out when you're and at home. So sometimes you'll catch the players glancing at that to get a little bit of an idea of what's going on around them.
You do hear of that in F1 as well. Drivers, when they've got a commanding advantage, will just have a look up at the big screen to see what's happening. Sasaki and Carrazza then, as predicted, into the pit lane. They cut that very, very fine. 1 litre of fuel left for Sasaki in his Red Bull X 2019. So Serrano is going to take over at the front, but the deficit between himself and Drumont now down to 2.1 seconds, and Drumont is going to be coming very close to the back of him very, very soon. And we'll see how long it takes the Frenchman to mount a challenge for the race lead. So start of lap 5 we are on. 3 to go here in the grand final in the Nations Cup. Serrano on the slower compound of medium tyre, but also crucially owes even the slower compound of tyre to that the hards at the end of this race.
New fastest lap of the race set by Valerio Gallo, a 6:23.4. The Italian on a charge right now on that medium compound of tyre. He's just found, I think, a good rhythm around here, and importantly actually starting to put up to the back of Takuma Miyazono. So if the tyre graphic is be believed, Gallo might be able to catch Miyazono by the end of this lap.
And the best news for Gallo is that he owes the soft tyre at the end of this race, so he'll be quicker than those around him as well, because every other driver in front of him will not be on the soft tyre at the end of this race. We'll have Serrano on the hard tyre, Drumont will be on the hard tyre as well as De Bruyne. Miyazono will be on the soft tyre as well. So what he needs to do really is try and get onto the back of Miyazono and get past him while he's on a quicker compound.
Another penalty for Serrano. That's got to be track limits. He's just gone through one of the fastest chicanes on the circuit. Really easy to pick up a penalty there. And Serrano throwing away any advantage he has. Just not quite comfy maybe on that medium stint, on that medium compound of tyre. But another penalty for Serrano. And that is an automatic one. Stewart's got nothing to do with that one as we ride on board with Kylian Drumont. The sun starting to get a little bit lower in the sky now as we just fly through this first sector of the Nordschleife. And that'll be a real encouragement to Drumont because he can now see the car he is chasing. It won't be long before he's got a draft and he'll be right on the back of our current leader, Jose, 1 second penalty too. And here are our live point standings, but that will change very soon.
Yeah, certainly will. So Serrano could be costing himself a chance at being crowned the 2024 Nations Cup champion here, because as you can see, very fine margins, double points on offer for this grand final as well. So if Drumont is able to leapfrog the Spaniard, it will be Drumont who is crowned as the champion, but De Bruyne, Miyazono all relatively close behind as well. Let's have a look at what happened here to Serrano then. So as Jimmy said, coming in towards the chicane, he just clambered the curb a bit too much going into the part of it, and he knew straight away, didn't he? Bit his lip there, shook his head, and that was it, unfortunately. Big shame there for Jose Serrano, and you can see now the Jaws music is being cued in the record player because Drumont and De Bruyne are very close behind indeed.
Now, interestingly, Kai De Bruyne has done an amazing job saving fuel, whereas Kylian Drumont has 19 litres left in the tank. Kai De Bruyne has 26. That is nearly 3 seconds in the stop, and that's going to be huge for the Dutch driver when we come round to our last round of pit stops. But we've still got to get there first. This circuit bites, especially when you don't expect it. One lapse of concentration and you find yourself in the barrier.
So if you're Kylian Drumont here, do you try and find your way through on Serrano as soon as possible? Do you just play the long game, wait for him to serve that penalty?
You've got to send it. You've got to get through as quick as possible here. He's going to be slower through that last sector. I'd say this is a good chance. Up the hill towards the carousel here. We go through Bergwerk and then we have a nice long section. Drumont should gain a little bit into Bergwerk through the right hander. He does, and now it's full front up the hill. Use the draft of the car in front. Maybe not quite close enough though, but he needs to get by. We can't afford to wait because there are cars who maybe aren't directly behind him right now, but are also threats when it comes to the last round of pit stops.
The other thing to consider here is that Drumont and De Bruyne are on that soft tyre. We saw there was a big drop-off in performance on that second lap, and they are now on lap 2, so there is a possibility that the tyres could be coming a little bit more towards the end of their life compared to the medium tyres relative to Jose Serrano in front, of course.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I just heard Drumont there turn the fuel down as he couldn't get any closer to Serrano. Now right on the back of the Spanish driver as we go into the carousel for the 5th time. He'll launch the car to the bottom here and just ride it through. Incredibly bumpy through here. Very easy to just spin a tyre if you get on the throttle too early on the exit. And now we go back up again to the highest point of the circuit. But actually Serrano, impressive enough through there, still keeping that gap of 7 tenths.
Certainly is. Threading the eye of the needle through there. That's beautiful from Kylian Drumont. Fantastic piece of driving from the Frenchman, and likewise Serrano and De Bruyne. I have to say, De Bruyne doing such a good job to keep within the wheel tracks consistently. Half a second he sits now behind Drumont, and he's been there for a fair amount of time. And De Bruyne actually the fastest man over the entire race in the first and second sectors over the course of this one. Up in towards YouTube corner we go. Serrano there, he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck as we head in towards the Dottinger Her, the top three. Well, you could throw a blanket over them, couldn't you, at this point? But look at that, 8 litres more fuel for Kai de Bruyne. That is going to pay dividends when we come through into the pit lane. Serrano surely is going to be into the box at the end of this one. He's got no choice, he's got no fuel left in that X2019. Dumont and De Bruyne as well, they've got to come in, because I would have thought that those soft tyres are not going to be able to go 3 laps for a 1-lap dash on the hard tyre at the end of this one.
And let me tell you, that penalty zone is going to come up soon for Jose Serrano, and it hurts. It's on the main straight, this one here, so that'll cost him a ton of time. You can see as we go now up through the last real corner before we get onto the back straight. And then you can just let the engine run free as you come now back towards the DP circuit. There's the penalty line in front, you can see it. Serrano crosses it now, slows down massively. Oh man, look at that.
Closing speed is incredible, isn't it?
But Serrano, luckily, will have the draft. He should pick the car back up again nicely. He has fallen back a little bit, but that's not going to hurt him as much as we originally thought.
But the problem is he's lost track position. They're all going to have to take a bit of fuel on board for this final stop. And again, the big outlier here is going to be Kai de Bruyne. He's got 12 litres left. Dumont in front has got 4 litres. Serrano just 2 litres. So again, very, very fine margins. Here are the live point standings. Now Dumont has got the head of Serrano. He now would be crowned as the Nations Cup champion, but there's still 2 laps left and remaining. 1 litre of fuel left for Serrano. Cut that very, very fine indeed. De Bruyne, meanwhile, he will take over in the lead of the race with track position here, presumably as well. The upshot is, though, that Gallo is going to be the fast charger at the end of this race. He sits in 5th position currently, but he's got the soft tyre to run. He's got a fair amount of fuel to take on board, though, as well. What about Angel Stroza behind? He's a fair way out of contention compared to Gallo, so no need really to worry about him. It's the top 5 we've got to keep an eye on here, and it's Gallo to see what progress he's now going to be able to make in the final stint of this race as he goes on to the soft tyre. Just to remind you, coming into this one, he is still very much in contention for the title. He had 27 points. He was tied on 2nd place with Kylian Dumont, and this final stint is going to define absolutely everything in the Nations Cup.
Wow, it comes down to this. Kai de Bruyne out front, 3.4 seconds is the gap owing to his fuel saving throughout the race. Great strategy there from the Dutch driver. That's the gap on circuit. That is the gap to the end now. Behind him, Jose Serrano still within touching distance. Takuma Miyazono out of the pits now, and look, on that soft compounder tyre. If there's something you don't want to see in the mirrors, it is Takuma Miyazono on the soft tyre. This guy is a rocket and now has the fastest car possible until the end of the race. But as does behind him Valerio Gallo, incredibly fast Italian driver. Alternative strategy from the rest, but now also within touching distance. Is going to be an absolute dogfight to the end here, and I cannot wait as Serrano already latches onto the back of Kylian Dumont.
Big outlier in this one, of course, is Takuma Sasaki. He's out of sequence compared to everybody else. Although he's in the race lead, it's not the race lead effectively. It's the net race lead is being decided between De Bruyne and Dumont and Serrano at the moment. But keep an eye out for Miyazono and for Gallo as well, because they're both actually now on the soft compound of tyre at the end of this one. If the checkered flag fell now, of course, I know it's a bit difficult with Sasaki being in the race lead. Gallo would finish a joint 4th place in the championship standings, which is not where he wants to be. Miyazono would be 3rd in the championship standings as well. So we'll wait and see how this one is going to play out and see what the gap is going to look like between Sasaki and De Bruyne as well. Up to 10.5 seconds between them. Sasaki, as we know, on that soft compound of tyre, so he's trying to get the overcut, effectively go a lap longer now on that soft tyre compared to everybody else. In fact, he was a lap longer on his first stint, I beg your pardon, so he was a lap longer on the medium tyre at the start of this one, which is why he is now out of sequence relative to those around him. So yeah, be interested to see what happens once this final pit stop has taken place, and once we get onto the final lap, then we will know proper what the order is going to look like for the victory.
Guys, you are watching right now a master at work. This is Takuma Miyazono on the soft compounder tyre, and now all he has to do is qualifying laps. Push hard now to the end of the race. Serrano ahead of us on the relative 6.9 seconds. Incredibly nice is the gap between him and Serrano. If anyone can close that down, it is this man, flying down now towards the compression in every corner, every braking zone. He's going to be taking time out of the Spanish driver owing to that soft tyre. But as you said, Tom, the tyre does fall away on the second lap. So do you push hard now? Do you use it up to that lap time? Or do you try and maybe conserve a little bit and have a quicker average over the 2 laps? That's up for Miyazono to work out.
Everything that you seem to throw at Kimi Miyazono, he adapts, doesn't he? He's like a chameleon. He just seems to change his colours depending on the circumstances that are thrown at him. And I saw him earlier in the licence test qualifying session that we had, and they were driving old Ferraris and then changing over to a Subaru with studded tyres on in the snow, and he was just able to throw the car into the corners and extract the maximum performance, and that is exactly what he's doing here in this final stint of the race. The gap coming down 2.3 seconds. He's faster in this sector alone.
Look at this precision through here. It is insane. As you say, Tom, 2.5 seconds gained on this lap. The gap now down to 4.9 seconds as we go through Adenau, just siving our way through here. The amount of skill and precision it takes to drive these cars around the circuit at this speed is almost beyond comprehension, but that's why these guys are the best drivers in the world at Gran Turismo. Through Bergwerk now, heavy on that throttle, and now a chance to breathe. And I think I just caught a glimpse of Serrano in front there, and it's a completely different ball game when you see that car you're chasing. You just, something changes in your brain. You turn into the hunter, and you just find that extra bit of speed, and Miyazono is very close to seeing the Spaniard in front now.
So the carrot being dangled then for Takuma Miyazono. Let's not forget he won the Nations Cup Championship back in 2020 when he went on to do the Triple Crown. He won the Toyota GR-GT Cup that year and also was part of Subaru's Manufacturer Cup winning lineup as well.
So Miyazono there looks really damn fast, right? Do you know who was faster behind him? Valerio Gallo.
Yeah.
He's gained now to 1.7 seconds. That gap was 2.5 seconds at the start of the lap. The Italian driver putting in an even better performance right now than Takuma Miyazono. This is going to be a grandstand finish at this race with only a lap and a half to go. Who's it going to be? These guys do have the tyre advantage, but they've got to get past Kai de Bruin, Kylian Drummond and Jose Serrano if they want a chance at taking this Nations Cup final championship.
So 1.5 laps then to go here at the Nordschleife. Through into the right-hander here for Valerio Gallo. I suppose the difficult thing for him is he's going to come into dirty air before too long as well. That's the problem when you're following cars through these fast sweeping corners. 1.7 seconds between Miyazono and Gallo it stands at the moment, but once he of course gets closer to the Japanese driver, it will start to hinder him a little bit more.
I think so. Fuel-wise, they're all good to the end, so it's a straight push now. There is Serrano. This will help Serrano. Having a look. There's Miyazono. He's right there. Look how close they are now. Miyazono can smell blood in the water. He can see Serrano from the sparks being kicked up from the Red Bull X 2019 in front, and he might even get into the point where he'll get a toe down the back straight. Watch him for his right hand to completely flat the commitment. Unreal here from Miyazono. Darting the car to the right to get a better entry, almost onto the gravel there. Now through the Twilight Carousel, back up the hill, using that toe. 1.2 seconds now is the gap. He'll have a toe going onto the straight. This is huge right now, but just over 1 lap to go. Miyazono and Gallo on a charge.
So current point standings, Jose Serrano will be crowned as the champion by finishing in 4th place, but of course Sasaki will be coming into the pits in a few moments time from the race lead. He'll be changing over onto the hard compound of tyre at the end of this one, and that will mean it will be a final lap showdown in the fight for victory here in the Nations Cup. Sasaki in the box then as he comes in. Where will he emerge? Actually after the pit stops as well. That's going to be an important point.
I don't know.
No, I don't know, but I wonder if he's going to be a bit of an upset for some of the drivers quite possibly here as well.
I feel like he'll be behind Gallo. I feel that's where he's going to come out,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I mean, Sasaki has had a good in-lap on that soft tyre, but as we go, so Kai de Bruin then inherits the lead from Kylian Drummond, Jose Serrano 3rd, Miyazono 4th, and Gallo up into 5th. It's now a straight fight between these 5 drivers for the win here in the grand final. If the race finishes now, Serrano would win, but I have a feeling he's going to be passed very soon by this man, Takuma Miyazono, extremely close to the back, and he has the tyre advantage on the soft compound of tyre. Serrano has driven well, but that hard compound, look at the difference here. He's just a sitting duck at this point.
Yeah, Miyazono's had a particularly good run in this weekend so far, and he's now all over the back of Jose Serrano. He's lunging his way to the inside of the Spaniard, down into the hairpin, and Miyazono goes up and through into 3rd place. He made that look so easy, and that then elevates him up into 3rd now in the championship standings. Next target, Kylian Drummond, and he's only 0.6 of a second away.
Yeah, I mean, this is it now. If you're in that driver's seat, you're just feeling egged on. You think, right, I've got one, let's get another one. And then the thing is, 3.5 seconds in front of this is Kai de Bruin. So will Takuma Miyazono have the pace to catch the Dutch driver? He's there because of his great fuel saving. Will Miyazono go for a move here into the chicane? He's looking at it. Oh, he does! In the the chicane, does up the inside, slows them all up though, and Miyazono through, and now it's 4.5 seconds, and there's Gallo. Gallo there in the background too. Now he's got to get by as soon as possible. He cannot waste time with Serrano or Drummond if he wants to challenge this win, but look already, he's stuck there. That could be the deciding move from Takuma Miyazono.
Yeah, difficult times then for Valerio Gallo. You can see there if there's a tie at the point, it'll be the driver with the higher result in this grand final race who will be crowned as the champion. Now Miyazono is up and into second. That's enough currently for him to be crowned as the world champion, but he'll be tied on points with Jose Serrano, so of course he needs to finish ahead of the Spaniard. Serrano currently in 4th place, and now here's Gallo trying to make his attempt at a pass over through flag puts on Serrano, but nothing doing for him at the moment. He's so much faster than the Spaniard because the Spaniard's on the hard cover of tyre, but he doesn't have the opportunity to use that extra pace that he's got underneath him. He's going to be forced to the outside line here. Gallo's going to be later on the brakes. Is he going to sweep his way through on the inside, then go to the outside line? Very close quarters here for Valerio Gallo around the outside, and Serrano's not giving this one up easy at all. Side by side they still continue to run, and eventually he has to set up a second best. It's going to be game over for Gallo at this rate.
Serrano fighting for his life right now. It's so hard to keep a guy on the soft tyres behind you, but he's doing it well. And all this while, all the while going on, Miyazono is pulling away. Kai de Bruin is still 4 seconds to the good of Takuma Miyazono. If he can just keep this pace up, he might be able to beat the Japanese driver to the line. But Gallo right now, this is the downside to on a different strategy. Goes for the lunge, can't quite make a move. You can feel the impatience from the Italian driver, and I have the feeling this isn't going to end well. Contact there with Serrano as dusk begins to settle here at the Nürburgring. Lights on as we now fly through the forest, illuminated by the headlines of his Red Bull X2019s. Gallo running out of time to make a move.
And this is the problem when you start lower back in the pack. It gives yourself so much more work to do. Gallo has really been compromised by his poor race 2, and now he is paying the price for it here in race 3. He picks up a warning for his troubles as well. One more of those, it'll be a penalty being issued by the stewards. And he's still stuck behind Jose Serrano. He can feel the hopes and dreams of a world title, a second Nations Cup championship slipping through his fingers at the moment. Meanwhile, Miyazono will be rubbing his fingers with glee in about half a lap time if it finishes as it is.
I don't know if he can get there. Kai de Bruin's pace in this hard tyre is exceptional. He is being caught by Takuma Miyazono, but not quick enough. Not quick enough, I think, to have to fend off. Here comes Gallo once more, looking for another pace up towards the mud curve. He's side by side with Serrano. He can't make it happen. Serrano, a defensive masterclass from the Spanish driver. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. The sparks being kicked up in the dust by the Red Bull X2019. Now looking into the carousel, into the corner before the carousel. Still can't find a way by. It's a disaster for Valerio Gallo.
Look at Gallo, he's all over him like a cheap suit here, trying to find his way through, going in towards the carousel, but this is nothing he can do. You can't go 2x2 through that corner, not unless you fancy a taste of the barrier. And Drummond, meanwhile, a bit of a cork in the bottle here at the moment as well, just keeping his powder dry up the road in 3rd place, and this is so frustrating for Valerio Gallo. I'm sure it's going to be game over because we've got less than half a lap to go, and Miyazono, meanwhile, is closing up onto the back of De Bruyne. He's brought the gap now down to 2.4 seconds. I don't know if the victory in the race overall is going to be in question, but he will finish crucially ahead of Jose Serrano on the road, which will be enough, even though it's a tie, for him to be crowned as the Nations Cup World Champion of 2024. This is absolutely superb.
So Serrano is doing his best to try and stay on the back of Kylian Drummond, because if Serrano can get by Kylian Drummond, he will be the champion for 2024. But of course, he's got Valerio Gallo behind him. It's looking one eye forward, one eye back, and Gallo is doing everything he can to find a way by. But it's so hard to overtake around here, around the Nürburgring. But we're now coming on to the best place to do that, on to the Dottinger It's going to be a slipstream battle between these 3 drivers, and basically, if Serrano can get by Drummond, he will be our champion for the year. Miyazono now has caught Kai de Bruin. He's right on the back of Kai de Bruin. If he can overtake de Bruin, he will be unquestionably the 2024 champion. This is so important for the championship.
One more straight to go then to define the 2024 title in the Nations Cup. Miyazono pulls out of the slipstream and sides his way past Takuma Miyazono. But what's happening in the background? What about Drummond and Serrano in the battle for 3rd place there as well? It's very close between them, but Miyazono, he's going to have enough in his pocket. This will give him a 4-point advantage as we come to the checkered flag if he's able to stay ahead of Kai de Bruin. The Dutchman would love to take victory though.
De Bruin's out of fuel, Tom. He's out of fuel.
Oh, disaster for Guy De Bruyne. What does that mean though for Drummond and Serrano close behind? De Bruyne so close to taking victory. It's going to be a big upset here indeed. He's parking his car. Serrano involved in strife. Drummond as well. Takuma Miyazono is the 2024 Nations Cup champion of the world here in Amsterdam. Absolutely superb. Drummond in second. Serrano will come over the line in third. The problems there for De Bruyne cost Serrano really dear in those final couple of corners. It means that Drummond will take second in the standings and Serrano will finish down in third overall now as well.
Oh my words. Oh my words. Takuma Miyazono, your champion, Nations Cup champion for 2024 with an amazing drive and all the drama at the end. Guy De Bruyne did a fantastic drive and all the drama at the end. Guy De Bruyne did a fantastic job putting himself in contention but just ran out of fuel. I saw it right at the end there, and in all that chaos at the end, we're going to have to wait for our results, I think, just to make sure we've got the points completely correct. But that was insane at the end there. Unbelievable
job from this man here, Takuma Miyazono. He got the strategy absolutely spot on. He performed when he needed to, and he knew he needed to make those overtakes on that final lap as quickly as possible to not get held behind.